The first thing Clara registered was the smell. It wasn't the crisp, pine-scented air of the 21st century Cascades she had been hiking. This was the smell of dry dust, cured grass, horse, and something acrid, like old wood. The second thing was the silence, not the quiet of a national park, which was always underscored by the distant hum of a highway or the drone of a high-altitude jet, but a profound, bottomless silence that felt as vast and empty as the sky. She opened her eyes, and the world was wrong. The sky was the same, a violent, almost purple blue, but the trees were gone. She was lying in a sea of waist-high golden grass, dotted with rough, dark green scrub. In the distance, mountains chewed at the horizon, but they were jagged and raw, not the familiar, forested peaks she knew. She had been on a clearly marked trail near Mount Rainier. This was nowhere. What the hell? Her voice was a dry croak. She sat up, and her head swam. The last thing she remembered was the storm. It had come out of nowhere, a freak electrical disturbance that her weather app hadn't even hinted at. The air had begun to crackle, the smell of ozone sharp and painful. A light, not white like lightning, but a sick, oily green, had swallowed the world. She had stumbled, fallen against a sheer rock face covered in strange, ancient petroglyphs, and then ... nothing. Now, this. She was still in her hiking gear, a moisture-wicking synthetic shirt, durable cargo shorts, and her broken-in Solomon trail runners. Her backpack was gone. Her phone, which she'd had in her hand, was gone. Her GPS, her water bottle, her bear spray, all gone. All she had was what she was wearing, and a growing knot of primal terror in her stomach. She stood up, her legs shaky. The sun was a hammer, beating down with an intensity she wasn't used to. In the far distance, maybe 2 or 3 miles away, she saw a cluster of dark shapes. Buildings. Small, simple, wooden. "Okay, Clara, don't panic," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's a ranch, or a commune, or some kind of historical reenactment place. Just walk, find people, find a phone." She started walking. The grass was sharp, and the sun was relentless. Her throat was already a dry patch of sandpaper. Every rustle in the grass made her jump. After what felt like an hour, the buildings grew clearer. They were not a tourist trap. They were real, but barely. They looked ... old. Not old in the preserved, historical plaque sense, but old in the sense of being actively worn down by time and hard living. There was a main cabin, a smaller bunkhouse, and a rickety-looking corral. A single horse, a handsome bay with a deep chest, was tied to a rail, already saddled. It watched her approach, its ears swiveling, but it didn't seem alarmed. There was no car, no truck, no power lines, no satellite dish. The knot of terror in her stomach tightened into a cold, hard fist. "Hello," she called out. Her voice sounded thin and stupid. Is anyone here? I need help. I'm lost." The cabin door opened. He didn't step out so much as fill the doorway. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed like he had just stepped off the set of a high-budget western. Worn jeans, a dark vest over a collarless shirt, a red bandana tied loosely at his throat, and a flat-brimmed, dusty hat. A gun belt with a holstered revolver rested low on his hips. His face was a map of sun and shadow, covered in a week's worth of dark stubble. His eyes, the color of gunmetal gray, were the only cold thing in the baking heat. They swept over her, taking in her strange clothes and bare legs with an expression of profound and dangerous suspicion. This was not a friendly rancher. This was, she realized with a lurch, the real thing. "Help me," she whispered, her bravado evaporating. "Please, I don't know where I am." The man said nothing. He stepped off the porch, his boots making no sound in the thick dust. He moved with a slow, predatory grace, his hand never straying far from the butt of his gun. You're a long way from anywhere, he finally said, his voice a low, gravelly drawl, especially for a woman dressed for the— Well, I ain't sure what you're dressed for. I was hiking, she stammered, pointing vaguely. Near Mount Rainier. There was a storm, a green light. I just woke up here. I don't. What year is this? It was the stupidest question, but it was the only one that mattered. His eyes narrowed. You playing dumb, girl? Or you just crazy? Or both? He took another step. I'm looking for a man. Name of Silas Croft. Rides with the Red Rock Gang. You one of his? What? No? I don't know any Silas Croft. I'm a hiker. My name is Clara Jensen. I'm from Seattle. Seattle? He repeated, tasting the word. That's Washington Territory. You're a long way from home. Washington Territory. Clara felt the blood drain from her face. No, ... Washington's a state. It's— Oh God. She fumbled at her hip for the phone that wasn't there. Then she remembered the small, waterproof pocket on her shorts. She jammed her trembling fingers inside and pulled out her last remaining piece of the 21st century. Her car key fob. It was black plastic with a small silver Chevrolet logo. She held it out like a cross to a vampire. Look, this is from my car. My ... My automobile. He looked at the small, strange object. He didn't take it. His eyes were flint. Some new kind of bauble? Silas paying his women in trinkets now. He's not. I'm not. It's not a trinket. Her voice was rising, hysterical. It's from the future. I'm from the future. As soon as the words left her mouth, she knew how insane they sounded. The man's face, already hard, settled into a mask of cold certainty. Right, he said, and he moved. He was impossibly fast. He closed the distance in 2 strides. His hand clamped around her wrist like a steel trap. The other hand grabbed her bicep. She cried out, more in shock than pain. I ain't got time for games. Girl, he growled, his face close to hers. She could smell the coffee on his breath. I'm U.S. Marshal Jedediah Boone, and I'm tracking for killers. You're either a lunatic, or you're a liar. And right now, I'm betting on liar. You're a decoy, sent to slow me down while they double back. No, please, you have to believe me. I don't have to do nothing but stop them from killing anyone else, he said, his voice flat. He was impossibly strong. He half-dragged, half-carried her across the dusty yard, her trail runners skidding uselessly. He was taking her to the porch. There was a simple, straight-backed wooden chair sitting near the door. He shoved her down into it. You're gonna sit here, and you're gonna be quiet, and you're gonna tell me the truth. Where are they? I don't know, she shrieked. He ignored her, pulling a length of rope from a nail on the porch wall. I've handled crazy women before, and I've handled lion women. You're acting like both. He was rough, but efficient. He yanked her hands behind the chair back and, with a few deft, painful knots, bound her wrists together. The rope was coarse and bit into her skin. Please, she sobbed, the utter hopelessness of her situation finally crashing down on her. She was a woman in shorts, tied to a chair, in what she was increasingly certain was the 19th century, at the mercy of a hard-eyed man who thought she was a criminal. He finished his knot and stepped back, coiling the rest of the rope. He picked up his hat from where it had fallen, dusted it off on his thigh, and settled it back on his head. Then he just stood there, looking down at her, as seen in the image. His horse, the only other living thing for miles, snorted impatiently. Breaking the tension, Clara looked up at him, her face streaked with dirt and tears, her chest heaving with terrified sobs. The bruise on her knee, which she'd gotten in the fall, was already turning a deep, angry purple. What do you want from me? She whispered, her throat raw. Marshal Jedediah Boone pushed his hat back an inch with his thumb. His gaze was steady, assessing, and utterly without pity. The truth, girl, he said, his voice a low rumble. I want the truth about Silas Croft, and I'm gonna stand right here until I get it. Croft, and I'm gonna stand right here until I get it. The sun crawled. It was a merciless white-hot eye, and Clara felt like an insect pinned under its gaze. For over an hour, Jedediah Boone did exactly what he said he would do. He stood, he watched, and he waited. Sometimes he would pace a short line in the dust, 10 steps one way, 10 steps back. Other times he would lean against the corral fence, arms folded, his hat tipped low. His horse, which he'd called Buck, shifted and stomped, but the marshal himself seemed to be carved from the same sun-baked wood as the buildings around them. Clara's tears dried, leaving salty, tight tracks on her skin. Her fear congealed into a strange, cold lump of despair. Her shoulders ached from the unnatural position, her wrists raw and burning from the rope. She had tried to talk, to explain, to reason. I'm a historian, she'd lied, desperate to find a narrative he would accept. I was with a survey group. I got separated. No tracks, he'd replied, not even looking at her. No wagon. No survey markers. Your boots. They're strange. They don't leave a print like a boot should. Like they're afraid of the ground. She'd tried anger. This is kidnapping. You can't just tie me up. I have rights. That had earned her a short, humorless laugh. Rights? Out here in the Cimarron Strip, your rights are what you can defend. And right now, you ain't defendin' much. Finally, she settled into a sullen, terrified silence. She watched him. He was a creature of this place. He was tuned to it. His head would lift and tilt at a sound she couldn't even hear, a distant hawk's cry, the skitter of a lizard in the bunkhouse. He wasn't just a man. He was an apex predator, and she was the strange, brightly colored frog he'd found and wasn't sure was poisonous. Water, she finally croaked, her tongue feeling thick and swollen. Please, water. He looked at her for a long moment. She saw a flicker of something, not kindness, but calculation. He disappeared into the cabin and returned with a tin dipper. He held it out to her. It was awkward, with her hands tied, but she managed to twist her head and drink. The lukewarm, metallic-tasting water, the most wonderful thing she had ever tasted. She drank greedily, spilling it down her chin. He pulled it away. Now, the truth. I told you the truth, she said, her voice hoarse. You just don't believe it. You can't believe it. Try me again, he said, his voice quiet. What did she have to lose? She was tied to a chair in the 1880s. My name is Clara Jensen. I was born in 1998. The year, my year, is 2025. I was hiking. There was a storm, a green light. I fell. I woke up here. I don't know how. I don't know why. I am. He stared at her, his gray eyes searching her face. He was looking for the tick, the flicker of deceit. He found nothing but a desperate, bone-deep exhaustion. 1998, he said, testing the words. And you say, 2025. That's 40 years from now. More? 140, she corrected weakly. 142, to be precise. It's the future. My present. He shook his head, a slow, sad gesture. You're clean out of your mind. Maybe Silas's men did get to you. Maybe they. He didn't finish the thought, but his eyes softened. Just a fraction. He looked at her not as a liar, but as a victim, a broken thing. I am not crazy, she snapped, her anger flaring. I can prove it. How? By showing me that ... that Chevy trinket again. No, my clothes. She strained against the ropes. This shirt. It's called polyester. It's made from oil. This nylon in my shorts, my shoes. This rubber on the bottom. It's not leather. It's man-made. He crouched in front of her, his expression unreadable. He touched the sleeve of her shirt, rubbing the high-tech fabric between a calloused thumb and forefinger. He tapped the thick, lugged sole of her trail runner with a fingernail. It made a dull thunk. "Strange," he murmured. "That's a fact." He looked up at her, and his eyes were no longer cold. They were deeply, profoundly troubled. He was a man whose entire world was built on simple, hard truths: dirt, leather, steel, horseflesh. She was a puzzle that didn't fit. Before he could speak again, his head shot up. He was a hound on a scent. He rose to his full height in one fluid motion, his hand instinctively dropping to his gun. "What?" Clara whispered, her heart seizing. "Get quiet," he commanded. "Stay quiet." He moved to the corner of the cabin, his back to the wall, peering out past the corral, toward the low-lying ridge 2 miles to the east. "Riders," he said, his voice barely audible. "4 of 'em, comin' fast. They ain't shy. That's them. That's Croft." Clara's blood turned to ice. She had been so focused on him as the enemy. She hadn't considered that the real enemy was still out there. Boone was in motion. He sprinted to his horse, grabbed his repeating rifle from its scabbard, and pulled a second revolver from his saddlebag. He checked the loads with an expert's speed. He was a machine built for this exact moment. He ran back to the porch and stared at her, his face a mask of furious calculation. He was outnumbered, 4-1. He was trapped between a gang of known killers and a woman he was convinced was insane. "He'll kill me," Clara whispered, the reality of it hitting her. "If they find me, ... After what you said, ... They'll kill me." "They'll kill us," Boone corrected, his eyes still scanning the horizon. The riders were larger now, black specks resolving into men on horseback. "You're a witness. I'm a marshal. They don't leave witnesses, and they sure as hell don't leave marshals." He looked at her, tied to the chair, a liability. "An anchor. Untie me," Clara said, her voice shaking but finding a new, hard strength. "Untie me, Marshal Boone, and what? You'll sprout wings and fly away to 2025. "No," she yelled, straining against the ropes. "I can't shoot, but I can load. You have 2 pistols and a rifle. You can't load and shoot at the same time. You need me. I can think. I see things. I'm a tactician. It's what I do. It's my job." It was a half-truth. She was a project manager, but it was all about logistics and strategy. He stared at her. The riders were closing. They were less than a mile out. "They'll try to flank," she said, her words coming fast, her mind suddenly, brilliantly clear. "They'll send 2 men around the back of the cabin, and 2 will come from the front. They'll try to pin you in a crossfire. Your horse is your weakness. They'll shoot your horse first, strand you, then take their time. You have to move Buck. Get him behind the bunkhouse, where he's shielded from the east and south." Boone's eyes widened. Her assessment was instant, brutal, and absolutely correct. It was exactly what he'd been thinking. This was not the rambling of a lunatic. He made his choice. He pulled a long-bladed knife from his boot, and in one swift motion, he lunged at her. Clara screamed, thinking he was going to kill her himself. Instead, he sliced the ropes on her wrists. The blade was gone as quickly as it had appeared. The rope fell away, and she slumped forward, her arms screaming with the sudden rush of blood. "Get up," he snarled, pulling her to her feet. She stumbled, her legs numb. He shoved the spare revolver into her hand. It was impossibly heavy. "This is a Colt. 6 shots. You said you can load. Can you?" "Yes. I mean, I've seen it in movies." The cartridges?" He threw a small, heavy box of cartridges on the porch. "Don't load till I tell you. Don't shoot unless I'm dead. Your job is to stay down, stay quiet, and feed me this." He slapped the rifle in his hand. "When I call for it, you have it ready. You understand?" "Yes," she said, her voice a reedy squeak. "Good." He grabbed her arm and dragged her into the cabin, pushing her down behind a solid-looking upturned table. "Stay down." He ran back out, untied his horse, and led it at a sprint to the back of the smaller bunkhouse, just as she'd said. He slapped its rump. "Get low, Buck." The horse, trained for this, stood tight against the back wall. The first shot rang out. A high-pitched whine that passed through the space boon had been a second before. A chip of wood exploded from the corral fence. Boone dived back into the cabin, landing in a roll, and came up in the window, his rifle already at his shoulder. "They're here," he grunted. Clara huddled behind the table, the heavy, useless pistol in her lap, her hands shaking so hard she could barely open the cartridge box. She looked over at the marshal. He was silhouetted against the bright light of the window, a figure of impossible, antiquated resolve. The battle for her life, fanned for his'n, a world she didn't belong to, had begun.